Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and you can try to resist, try to hide from my fist, but you know that you can't fight the Moon Knight. Come on. The first episode of the Marvel Disney Plus show is now out, and if it left you scratching your head, then this is the video for you. Throughout it, we're going to be breaking down everything you need to know about Moon Knight, including his powers, gadgets, and best comic book runs. I have done a video on the character before, but no one likes to milk topics more than your Uncle Kevin's spoilers, and hopefully this has enough new info in it that you don't mind. Not like you were doing anything anyway, you're sitting about watching mediocre YouTube videos, what are you complaining about? Now, the show plants us firmly in the perspective of Stephen Grant, a lowly museum staff member who has trouble sleeping at night. But what are his hopes, his dreams, when he can get them? Well, weirdly, Marvel went outside the box by introducing us to him first, and in the source material, Marc is actually the main persona. Stephen has been changed up quite a bit, and in the comics he's a socialite playboy who's basically Marvel's answer to Bruce Wayne. Over the decades, Moon Knight has drawn a lot of comparisons to Batman, and when he was first created, I think it's fair to say that they were very similar. As time's gone on though, they've slowly branched out from this, and Marvel very much used the character almost as a mental health study. He initially started off as just one man acting as Stephen when the time called for it, but this has been developed to go way beyond that. More modern takes of Marc actually suffering from DID, or dissociative identity disorder. This means that he has multiple personalities who all take over his body, and he regularly cuts between them. If you've seen Split, then you know what to expect, and Marc is one of the most broken superheroes in comic book history. Now, along with Marc and Stephen, we also have the persona of Jake Lockley. In the comics, he's a cab driver who uses his connections to underworld crime to gain intel for Marc. Then there's of course the personas of Moon Knight and Mr. Knight, which are very much extensions of the personalities that all inhabit Marc's body. Now, Moon Knight, aka Marc Spector, originally appeared in Werewolf by Night 32 all the way back in 1975. He was co-created by Doug Mawenk and Don Perlin in what was a devilish debut. Marc was a mercenary that was working for the highest bidder in order to take down the titular character by day or night. Now, he arrived on the scene with several weapons, including batons, spike gloves, and his signature throwing device, the Moonrang. Always annoy me when I hear that, as Moonerang would be better, but by the end of the issue, Marc and Werewolf by Night realise it's all one big misunderstanding, and they decide to become friends. Now, though he was originally meant to appear in just a one-off, the character was extremely popular, and thus they decided to bring him back. I don't know how they judged if a side character was popular back then, as they didn't have the internet to gauge fan interest, but maybe it's like when you show one of your YouTube videos to your mother and she's like, "Oh, this is the best video I've ever seen. You should be on TV with that nasally voice, everyone would love it." Now, editors Marv Wolfman and Len Wein decided to start placing him into other arcs, and they switched him from a villain to a hero, which is where we're pretty much at today. Now, Marc's story begins in Chicago, Illinois. Born the son of a rabbi, he and his father had a strained relationship due to his strict upbringing. Over the years, as the secondary personas have been retconned to be part of his DID, they have kind of reintroduced them during his childhood. Stephen even appeared as an imaginary friend, and because Marc wasn't allowed to have many pals, this persona was very much created in order to keep him occupied. Now, in some runs, Marc believed that his dad was a coward because he fled the East in order to escape the Holocaust during the Second World War. Marc stated that he should have remained in Fort, and this led to him enrolling in boxing classes before he switched his attention to the US Marine Corps. Spector was the best of the best of the best, sir, and he left the Marines in order to become a gun for hire. Working as a mercenary, he carried out several black op jobs for the CIA and gained the nickname Marc Canary. You didn't edit that out. Now, Marc was selected for a job out in Egypt, and along with another mercenary named Raoul Bushman, they travelled out to a dig site. This was filled with archaeologists that had unearthed a temple dedicated to the moon god Khonshu. Realising that it would make him rich beyond his wildest dreams, Bushman killed most of the people there, and he ended up beating the crap out of Marc. He left him behind to die at the site, but Marc was found by the locals who worshipped the god, and they took him before their shrine. In the world between the living and the dead, Khonshu appeared to Marc, and he was like,
"Alright mate, I'll let you live if you're my avatar on Earth, and that'll be that."
Now, like most people, Marc agreed to this, and he wrapped himself in the silver shroud of the statue, which was when Moon Knight was born. Marc caught up to Bushman, and he got revenge for what he did at the dig. Bushman has remained a major antagonist in the Moon Knight books over the years, and though there's been no news of him being in the series, he is integral to Marc's origin story. Now, after this, he returned to America, became a crime fighter, and through Blackest Day and Darkest Night, nobody can fight my man Moon Knight. Now, alongside boxing, Spector is also trained in the arts of ninjutsu, Muay Thai, Judo, Kung Fu, and Karate. because of his training he's able to perform at an Olympic level, and he's also a master in acrobatics, thus traversal around the city is very easy for him. Now Moon Knight originally didn't have any superpowers, but over the years he's become more and more skilled to the point that his abilities border on the supernatural. Judging by what the character does in the trailers for the series, it seems like he's going to have enhanced abilities such as increased strength, speed and agility. Man also does a killer Dick Van Dyke impression, and the guy has got it all going on. Now Marc has had a very hot and cold relationship with Khonshu, much like what we see in the show. At several points he's disobeyed the god and was even stripped of his powers and left crippled. This happened in the book The Bottom, and he even cut off Bushman's face at one point in it. He was a fully broken man, and he begged for a second chance from the god, which was eventually granted. There's also a lot of theories that Marc might have actually imagined the entire thing, and that Khonshu never came to him and he's just hallucinating his whole life. It's a fascinating aspect of the character, and there's a lot of books that delve into his mental health. Now if you want something to read for the character, then chances are you're gonna get a bit lost. There's so many runs that are just called Moon Knight Volume 1, and because of this it's difficult to know where to start. Personally, I recommend picking up Werewolf by Night 32, and one of the classic collections that contains not only this, but also some of the first stories involving the character. Though the origin story of Moon Knight isn't essential reading, it is interesting to see how it's been modified over the years. There's also the incredible Jeff Lemire run that you can pick up in a complete collection. This follows Marc as he's trapped in what appears to be a psychiatric hospital that he's apparently been in since he was a kid. There's very much a 12 Monkeys vibe to it, where he's not sure if he's Moon Knight or if he imagined it like all the doctors say. Eventually it's revealed to actually be in a void outside of time and space, overseen by Khonshu, who wants to destroy Marc mentally so that he can rediscover himself. There's some amazing fourth wall breaking moments, and as he jumps between his personalities, the environments shift around him. When he's Steven, he believes it's all just a TV show that he's filming, and that he's an actor taking part in a psychological drama that's called Moon Knight. When he's in Jake mode, he's on the streets of Chicago, helping police to solve crimes. When he's Moon Knight, he's a fighter pilot that works on the moon, and his call sign is, well, Moon Knight. Lots of incredible moments, and I definitely recommend that you pick it up. At the end he ends up joining all his personalities together, and they come as one to crush the skull of Khonshu. Now it's revealed in the book that Khonshu had his eyes on him ever since he was a kid, and in some stories he's merely shown as a manifestation of the god called a Pathfinder. These have appeared over the years, and it's going to be interesting to see if the show tries to tackle something like this. Now with the Eternals post-credits scene, it's also possible that we could see a formation of the Midnight Suns soon, and potentially Dane Whitman, Moon Knight and Blade could team up together. They've all had big scenes in London museums, and potentially the team could be formed in a post-credit scene for the series, leading into the Blade movie that's coming down the line. Anyway, that's everything you need to know on Moon Knight, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show in the comments below. We are in a competition right now and giving away 3 copies of Spider-Man No Way Home on the 15th of April, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the character. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of the first episode, which will be linked on screen right now. We go over all the Easter eggs you can find in it, talk about some of our theories, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're interested in the show. With that out of the way, thanks for sticking through the video. I've been Paul, let's see you next time. Take care, peace.